Hi Heidi.
I'm
Sorry.
right here.
Are you Heidi as well?
Less Heidi voice. Yeah, but thanks for unmuting.
Should we start?
Okay, yes, we're live. We're just gonna.
Okay. Hello. So we can get started. This is our findings report for phase one of our branding project. Thanks for everyone for coming. Just so you know, this report is, as we go through it, we're looking for some meat that we can rely on for the subsequent phases. I think Allie and I look forward to the completion of this project every day. We feel it in our advertising efforts, across the website, all of our creative, and really look forward to having those assets to tell better stories, more effective stories. But this first part is to make sure that we're on the same page. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to Kim, who will be going through their findings report.
Thank you very much, Mick, and thank you everybody for coming to join us today. This is a pretty good turnout. So we've been doing a lot of work over the last several months to put together the findings that we'll share in this deck. And we've also had a lot of fun. Thanks to many of you for hosting us and helping us experience everything Moab has to offer firsthand. I thought I'd just maybe quickly introduce the team that we have here, and we actually have a few members of our team that are joining remotely as well. I'm Jessica. I'm the managing director of Camp 4 Collective. Steve Berry is our account director on this project. Alex Fuller is our creative director and also the principal at Tourist. And Ben Peters is our strategist for this project. On the call, I can see our lead designer for this project, Erin Nye Herndon, on the call, as well as our producer, project manager, Heidi Gress. Am I missing anybody else? I don't know. Can you see everyone who's on there? Is Tim on here? I thought Tim was going to join, but maybe he'll be on soon. And we, with that, I'll hand it over to the team.
Cool.
Is it going? Now it's not going? We just had it going. Okay.
All right, so agenda wise
Wait, no, it's
today,
not going. It's not my arrows. We literally just had this. Let's just try this here real quick. So it was
What
working.
if you hit OK on both these?
Do I have to do this? Try this now. Weird, it worked like a second ago.
Wouldn't be a proper presentation.
Oh, man. We literally just got here like, oh, we got it. Okay. Thank you.
okay, so our agenda today. So this culmination of everything from phase one, we're gonna take you through where the brand stands today. We're gonna take you through what travelers want now. And then this is gonna lead into where we need to go. So as you think to our overall process for everything that we're doing across these three phases, this is the end of phase one. And so this really is a strategic summary of all of our findings. This is not yet your brand positioning or our recommendation for your brand positioning. This is the culmination of all of our learnings and findings to then take that into phase two to determine what your brand positioning can be. And that then leads into new brand identity, new creative campaign concepts. So this is our findings. We want to share this with you and make sure that everybody is nodding along and saying, we're all in agreement here. This is the way we want to go. So as you can see in phase two and phase three, we get into a lot more detail over the next 3 to 6 months, where we come back with brand positioning and messaging. We come back with a whole new brand identity with logo, color palette, look and feel. And then into phase three is when we produce all new assets. We create all new creative campaign concepts that we can use across everything marketing. Okay. So I will hand it to Ben.
Oh, thanks, Steve. Yeah. I wanted to start here just to kind of ground us in what exactly all this is. I've been in brand strategy for about 25 years now, over hundreds of brands. And I bet if I asked them all, what is strategy, they would give me a totally different answer. So in the simplest terms, this is how we think about it. Strategy is where to play and how to win. Where to play, these are the arenas we're going to compete in. What customer set are we going after? What geographies are we going after? What channels are we going to use to do that? What are we gonna offer them once we're there that's gonna be compelling? And then what context are we meeting them in? So that's kind of like the where to play. The how to win side is really figuring out what unique value are we gonna deliver to those people? What capabilities do we have that are gonna make that relationship possible? What's the economic logic? You know, like what revenue do we need and what levers are we gonna pull to get it? And then most importantly, maybe what are we gonna be known for? Like what's the mental mindset we want people to have about us? So to us, this really encapsulates what strategy is about. You'll see throughout the presentation today how we're touching on all these different aspects of it to really carve out where the opportunity space is for Moab.
Begins to work. All right, we're
It's
done.
working.
Is it working?
Okay, great. So this is the foundation, right? The foundation of what it is we're gonna stand for and what it is we're gonna be known for. And this is as much for our team as it is for all of you, because before we design anything, we need to understand everything. So today's work is really about clarity, how Moab has seen and felt and experienced now, and what that tells us about where the brand can go. So this is the groundwork, the foundation. It's the why that comes before the what and the how. And so after we align today on what Moab should be known for, then we can start building upon that foundation with the creative work, which my team is very eager to get doing. So that's all the new brand positioning and messaging, the visual identity, and the campaign ideas.
So this is the button.
This is the button, yeah,
I
it's the
see.
button, yeah,
Okay,
it's
cool.
gonna work out.
All right, chapter one, where the brand stands today. So today is really not a celebration of Moab's popularity. What we're talking about today, it's a hard look at what that popularity has done to Moab. Back when we first met you, when in our pitch, we said, it seems like tourism is something that has happened to Moab and not something that is intentionally designed. So what we're reviewing with you today is really the foundation for that design. So this is the moment we're going to start to shape that future. So today we're really going to name what's true. We're going to call out what is costing us, and we're going to shift the conversation from more tourism to better tourism, which I think everyone here would agree is an objective. And if we get this right, Moab really becomes a model. If we don't get it right, we're going to be stuck in the same patterns that none of us probably in this room think are sustainable, and certainly aren't going to lead us to the kind of good growth that we all want. So we're going to start today with the ethnography work. This is all the interviews we did on the ground here over the last couple of months, and phone calls and the surveys we did, and just all of the one-to-one conversations we've had with everyone here. Not just because it reflects reality, but it really is such a cornerstone of the objective of this work to make sure that we're bringing that local voice into the work, right? This is a huge part of what you guys wanted to accomplish here. We feel really good about the breadth of perspective that we got. So the things we're going to share back with you are not things that we claim or wish were true. This is what's actually happening on the ground, right? And on, in Moab, the ground is the product, right? First and foremost. So if that lived experience, in other words, what people feel deeply about living here, drifts away from what the brand can actually do, trust erodes, eventually what we stand for erodes, and eventually we lose meaning. Right? So this section is really about what are the truths we can build on, and what are the truths we have to really stop ignoring. First off, the clearest insight in Moab, the land isn't the backdrop, it is the main character. People don't describe this place like scenery. They describe this place like an encounter with something much bigger. It's more than just looking at it, And that matters because Moab's brand power is really in its ability to convert that sort of initial awe into a long-lasting reverence for the place. In other words, this isn't just like a come do things kind of place. This is a come feel things kind of place. And that is a really strong brand equity that we've got to protect. So when people say to us, I thought this was the best thing ever, and then it got better and better, that's not marketing. That is like the real truth of this place in action. And that's got to be at the center of everything that we do. Secondly, this idea about Moab's contradictions, we see these as huge advantages, right? We've got high energy and we've got stillness. It's wild and also welcoming. It's rugged and also relaxing. This is where the voices we heard from people we talked to really, really cut through for us. to us, this is visitors saying like, help me do Moab beyond the obvious, right? They come for the obvious and then learn there's more and more and more dimensions of this place to explore. Locals are saying, make tourism feel like it gives back to the community. Leaders, some of you in this room are saying, we need outcomes, not just numbers. And that's signaling a pretty profound shift. So these are all different vantage points, but really the same core message, which is that our old story about Moab just isn't enough anymore. There's permission and maybe even sort of an obligation for Moab to evolve. And so when the ground truth aligns this strongly, the risk is, the risk isn't moving, the risk is really standing still. It's not what we're doing. We all know in this room, this is a tension we can't really dance around. The fact that tourism is the economic engine of the place, and it's also the emotional fall line of the place. You can have strong visitation and still lose trust if people don't see that reinvestment, that relief, or like a clear plan. So that's why any growth strategy we think about has to kind of pass through this good growth framing. Value and impact, not just volume. So, and also paired with like really visible community signals so everyone understands what our strategy is. Otherwise, the story becomes, the destination is extracting. And it's not sustained. When 80% of residents, which is roughly who, everyone who told us this, are concerned about this, it's not really a footnote. It is definitely like a governance mandate that we really need to take seriously. Core behavioral gap that we see, and that we heard from all of you, is that transactional visitation versus relational visitation. Transactional is I hit the spots, I got the photo, and I'm out of here. Relational is I understand what I'm in and I'm really connected to it in a profound way. So the big lever here is local voices, right? Guides, storytellers, experts, because they don't just improve the experience, they completely change how people show up and how they engage. The data really supports this. 84% of people said guides and community members enhance their experience here. It's a huge benefit to us. The pivot is we need to start thinking about this fact as a sort of a brand delivery channel, okay? Not just a nice thing that happens to happen here because everyone wants to talk about Moab. It's a delivery channel for us, for the brand. And so we need to just design for that very intentionally. This slide to us is a really big strategic unlock, and that is that time is Moab's really under-leveraged growth lever. The destination over-delivers when people stop sprinting and they really start progressing from a first trip to a much deeper trip in the future. So that shift does three big things at once. One, it increases value per visit. Secondly, it supports dispersion, just beyond the big iconic attractions. And the third is it makes shoulder season storytelling like a lot more viable. So the point is simple, that Moab is really better when it's not rushed. And people already know that, 90% of people we talked to here said, I wish I had more time. I'm coming back next time. So that's the market telling us, design a longer stay for me. And there's a way we can capitalize on that. Yeah.
I would add just here, over the last year, this is something we come up against with the Mighty Five. People come to visit the Mighty Five, and they land in Moab and they say, I had no idea this existed, but their trip's already planned. They're coming for one day. They're moving on to Capitol Reef. So as we think through what we can do with this, if we can put people on notice about how long they should stay, the sorts of things that we do in addition to visiting the parks. These are the sorts of things that we can build into our marketing efforts, the way we represent ourselves visually to affect that behavior. Just wanted to add that.
Yeah, great, man. Absolutely. It's a clear signal, like design a deeper state for me. Okay, we looked at all of your social channels. And try to pull together like a point of view about the sentiment we're seeing out there and some of the topics that are popular and so on. So we all know that Moab's being marketed by everybody with a camera all the time. And the internet doesn't just sort of reflect what's happening in Moab, it shapes the story about Moab. It scripts it for people. It tells them what to do, it tells them where to go, and it tells them what counts about their trip, right? And this is a script that we can influence. So we're looking at now about what's being amplified and what we want amplified next. Because this is really demand shaping in real time. And, you know, we can participate in that and shape it in the direction we want. Honestly, the Moab momentum online is huge. Dwarfing, you know, other destinations that we've looked at, in terms of volume, in terms of reach, overwhelmingly positive sentiment, and that's really good news. The warning is when the world loves you this much, you can get used. And I think the opportunity isn't really just to increase buzz, it's to start directing it in the right way. So let's shift what people do with that excitement. Better timing, better dispersion, better stays. Success here to us is not just more posts, it's more and better patterns that are emerging. So rather than just seeing like the standard issue, big red rock shot that everyone gets, we want to see new stories forming about what's valuable in Moab and what people experience here. So that's what we're going to be looking at as this work that we're going to develop comes out into the market. We want to see new narratives emerging about Moab. That to us is going to be a real signal of success. We'll still maintain the volume. There's no question that's gonna, you know, is perpetual. But let's see some new stories and new narratives from people who are really experiencing it firsthand.
Can I ask you a question really fast?
Of course,
What's the sentiment of the other 10%?
Right.
neutral.
10%.
Neutral? Just
Neutral.
neutral.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. We looked a lot, you know, one thing you can glean from social pretty readily with some pretty cool tools is like, what's the emotional content of all this? And the emotional profile of that content for Moab is like super online discourse works, the negative things tend to get a lot of amplification, right? But it is really such a small percentage of this. But when those frustrations do come forward, it's all around logistical things. And to us, that signals that helping people plan better and understand all those nuances about what the experience here would be like can really help defeat a lot of that stuff. So the big takeaway here, Moab's got a lot of emotional equity that a lot of other places just don't have. And we need to just defend that and make sure we don't break it in really predictable places, right? To keep that positive sentiment and that joy going. You know, the fastest way to break that is with confusion. Like, I didn't know about that. I wasn't prepared. I couldn't get access, things like that. Brian, we were talking yesterday about like, you know, how can we close the gap between expectation and reality? The more that we start to do that, the better people's experiences are going to be. It's a really fragile thing that we just need to make sure we're constantly supporting and defending. Okay, this is the trade, right? Moab over delivers on wonder and then under delivers when those trips get challenged by logistics and other things people just didn't know how to plan for. Timing, access challenges, expectation gaps. When those things happen, it doesn't just feel like travel friction. It kind of feels like the destination failed them in a way. And the strategic point here really is that experience failures are really failures of the brand itself. So protecting the brand means protecting the trip. We start to think of these as the same thing. We're going to be able to do a lot of really powerful work to help people design a better experience here that they're then going to talk about. So guidance and pacing and things like that aren't really nice to have. They are really essential safety rails for Moab and something we always have to be thinking about in all of our communication.
And so when you say 86%, this is in your ethnological research.
This is the social center.
Okay.
Mhm.
And then
Posts online, on your system.
This is just social.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then 4%, it's 86 versus 4%.
Yeah.
But maybe 4% is noisier. So even though it's a small,
Unquestionably noisy.
Yeah. so it could be more of a threat.
Yes.
We don't address it.
Yes. It's, you know, you can think of it as risk that you need to mitigate. You know, knowing that that small vocal minority causes so much noise. What are ways we can get ahead of that and design for it in advance and diminish it or at least contain it?
Would you be willing to specify or tell us a little bit more about the complaints?
Sure, that's something we can provide later. We
Okay.
did pull down a lot of and sort of aggregate things together to get a more general picture, but there are details.
Okay,
Do you
I
guys
can
do-
see the fence,
Yeah.
you know, the chamber and partner and mitigating some of those.
Yeah,
Did you already go over the positives though?
Yeah.
Maybe, I missed that.
oh, it's so overwhelmingly positive.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, those make sense to me.
yeah, yeah, the love is real, we just have to defend it, you know?
The love is like in all caps, underscored and highlighted and circled 12
Yeah, I
times.
do love
Dominant.
that, yes.
There's like one person in the room shouting, stomping their feet on the internet, but they can slap it, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, there's some, to us, pretty clear ways, and you'll see baked into kind of the strategy direction we're gonna culminate with today, which is that there's ways to overcome these things. The first move is really just have to make Moab feel easier to choose. And that's not through dumbing it down or changing its actual character, but we can just help people more confidently sort of choreograph their trip here. The best destinations out there don't really inspire, they guide you. The second thing, I'm so glad this is working. We're not trying to get more people in the same place at the same time. We're really trying to shape when and where that visitation happens. So that means we're going to be actively promoting off-peak timing, designing reasons to explore beyond the big obvious hits. I think we all realize that's an under-leveraged dimension of this place. Third is when there are constraints, we can't sound like a rule book, we need tools that feel like help, not restrictions. So visitors interpret Moab as a place that cares about their experience. So we can turn that friction into trust. And finally, we need to protect always what makes Moab worth traveling for. The core truth here is that the magic is finite, and the best experiences are going to come from traveling here really intentionally. So if we reinforce the idea that Moab rewards smart choices, timing, preparation, and above all, like respect for the place, this is a way we can start to counter some of that negativity that's out there, which again is very small but very loud.
My turn. Okay, so here's where we're gonna get into a little bit more on just market dynamics research. So really, for us, we know that Moab is popular and loved, but where do we capture that value? Like, what do the numbers actually say? There was a lot of data provided to us. We dove in on a lot of different things. So STR data, we got hotel performance metrics, occupancy rates, average daily rates, Symphony data, we got visa spending, lodging performance, visitor metrics. We got the TRT collections that shows all the lodging tax revenue for hotels, short-term rentals, permitted campgrounds, and then of course we got national park visitation. This was a lot of data for us to take in. Ultimately, what we would say to you all is we need a more comprehensive study that would help us understand patterns and plan accordingly against those. So all this data is kind of disparate and separate. We need to somehow bring it together so that we can figure it out together what it all means. So what we can do now is look at what does this market think about Moab. So we looked at these numbers and we took away our best assessment of what these numbers say to us. So through strategic marketing or strategic messaging and targeting, we know that we can get past visitors to actually return. We know that we can get more people to visit in shoulder seasons. We know that we can get campers to return and choose hotels on their next trip. We can expose travelers, we can get hotels and short-term rental guests to stay one more night. And then we can expose travelers to more activities in Moab and appeal to modern traveler needs. So this to us is all the upside of this data. There are different levers that we can pull within our brand positioning and messaging to actually bring more of that value into the market. So when you think about just adding one more night, if we add 2 more nights, that's even better. So when we talk about convincing campers to maybe come back on a second trip and stay at a hotel, we want them to adventure here and get a good night's sleep, get a shower, and adventure more. So all of this data that we're taking in is just saying to us that we need to leverage a lot of these things in different ways through our messaging. Okay, so is there a question?
Could you expand a little on the meaning of modern traveler needs?
We're gonna get into that a little bit more throughout this presentation of just what the trends are that we can look into. So yeah, we'll answer that as this presentation goes on. Cool.
And we'll just note that, it's a workshop, so board members generally ask questions, and then we save, if you have questions, you can email me. We also have a board meeting after this with a citizens to be heard section, so that section's a good time to hear. It was a great question, they'll get into it, but, those are kind of how workshops proceed.
Okay, so as far as just current Moab branding in market, we looked at this in two ways, both with the state and with what we're doing as the county. What others are saying about you, what the market is saying about you. Now we're kind of looking at what you all are saying about yourself. That is truly your marketing. And the brand has to mature from iconic imagery to a more designed experience. So we don't just need to say a louder message, we need to be smarter about the message that we're saying. Doing two things at once here. So just in general, thinking about the history of the Utah state marketing, we know that this has been great for awareness of national parks and landmarks. We know that the arches have been used throughout this marketing. We know that it's actually promoting more of a Red Rock experience across all of the national parks. So from the original Mighty Five to the Road to Mighty, even to what we're doing in the current, the state's doing in the current advertising, it is really promoting a much bigger general message to drive awareness across the state. This is really reinforcing a Red Rock look and feel across all the national parks. And it seems that kind of Delicate Arch is being the key driver of that bucket list tourism for the entire state. So it's really helping us top of funnel to drive that demand, but it's not a vehicle to expand and deepen the engagement in Moab. Yeah.
Our office engages with the state a lot, and the marketing director presents a customer journey loop quite often in most of his presentations. And he describes it as, the state is, if you think of the marketing funnel, is a really high level inspirational message. They're casting a very wide net. And then in that loop, we kind of look at where the DMO fits in. So as people start to convert or start to plan their trip, it's what Steve is acknowledging there, that we have an opportunity to tell a deeper story. They capture interest, people start to consider Moab, and that's kind of where we fit in that customer journey.
So then when we take a look at just your overall foundational marketing, so really we know that the ad campaigns have changed over time, and those can continue to change over time. But what we're really reflecting on here is just the overall brand as it stands over the last few years. So it is doing a good job of supporting an immense amount of positive word of mouth. So we know that we're getting all that love and that joy because a lot of people are just speaking very highly of this place and getting people to want to come back. However, this is leading to more of an outdated, unfocused brand messaging, creative identity. So it's really making us feel more like that one and done Red Rock adventure that the state is kind of driving the awareness of. So people are coming here and we're kind of reinforcing that scenic messaging. And we need to get a more meaningful message to come through and all of that. So this isn't just about coming here for that one photo moment that you put on Instagram and moving on. We need to kind of build that meaningful message, and it really is truly time for an overhaul. Yeah.
And I just add on this one too. An observation I've had when I came into this office, a typical branding exercise is you put everything that all your marketing on the table and ask, does it look like each other? Does it look like it's coming from the same family? Is it talking to each other? This slide shows our logo, a billboard in town, traveler guides that we mail out, our Instagram, and our website. There's just a few examples, but fundamentally, I think these things were all designed at different periods of time over long periods of time. What's not included here is our photo asset library, which is critical to telling stories. And all of this is part of this project, to get all of these things, all of these efforts that we put resources behind to encourage people to visit. We will tell a more effective story when all of those things look alike and are kind of talking to each other, and really have a strategy behind it. What are we going after, and what stories do we want to tell?
Preach, brother. So all of this qualitative research that we've just run through, what folks on the ground think about Moab, what the market and the internets think about Moab, what we're telling them in our marketing. If you take all of that and mash it into a ball, that's our brand position. It's what we're known for. It's what we're perceived to be standing for. And so what does Moab stand for today? It's iconic red rock, high energy adventure and a base camp identity that tries to include everyone. And that is not wrong, right? That's a perfectly fine place to start. It's just that it is not sharp enough for the world we're in now. That broadness creates interchangeability, and interchangeability is risky. Moab has outgrown the something for everyone story. And so the next chapter is one that we need to define, or someone else is going to define it for us. So we dove through all of the past advertising as well as, recent brand marketing materials. And really, these are the kind of key messages that show up the most over the last several years in the marketing and advertising. And the ingredients were right? Adventure plus respect. The execution is where things slipped. Broadness makes Moab feel interchangeable, and the idea of respect, when it lands wrong, it feels like scolding. So that's what we need to move away from. So Moab's current brand image is broad and safe. It's this epic red rock adventure with something for every kind of explorer. And that is perfectly appealing, but it is not at all distinctive. It could easily be almost anywhere in the West, and it could be intended for anyone. And not that long ago and still fresh in people's minds, probably no one in this room now, that message swung hard in the opposite direction with a tone that felt really unwelcoming to visitors. So here's the problem statement. Moab is trapped right now between generic and corrective. It's too broad to be distinct, but it's too stern to feel inviting. So you're getting these really mixed signals in the marketplace. And this is where we're coming from, right? This is our starting place for the work ahead. So the brand position isn't wrong. It is emblematic of a place that was still in its adolescence as a destination brand. But now Moab has grown up. And this is the chance to show up with intentionality as a mature destination. So moving forward, we need to shift the tone and find some focus. And so the opportunity here is to really own one confident idea that Moab is deeper than the highlights and it is best experienced with intention.
I would just add there that we've never really formally done a
Done this.
project like this. So that's how you get to this place, all of this,
Yeah, there was nothing done wrong. It just, you never got to, this is your first chance of being a grown-up, to sit down and really do this process fully and right, and this is why it takes a year.
12 years ago, about roughly 10 or 12 years ago, there was a small group that came up with an identity for Moab as the world's adventure capital.
Yep.
And that would, in my opinion, have been the last, you got it there, okay. That would have been the last iteration, and that was a long time ago before a lot of businesses were even in existence, so.
And it was a long time ago in the world of travelers. I mean, I think that's the big difference. I mean, my team, we created the Mighty Five and it was enormously successful, but if we were starting from scratch, it would not be the right campaign to do today. I don't think it would get the results today that it did.
Why do you say that?
Yeah, I'm really
Because I think
curious.
travelers want different things now than they did then. And so what they're looking for now is meaning, well-being, personalization, more authenticity, and how people are traveling today is different than they were traveling 15 years ago. They are looking for depth without lectures. They're looking for discovery without crowds. And that is really good news for us. This is like the time in Moab. This era of travel is like, we are perfectly built for it here in Moab, but we have to design for it, because otherwise the default pattern that we've been in is going to continue to win. So this is the moment that Moab gets to choose what it becomes when it is. So let's dive into a little bit of exactly those questions you're asking. And that's the question that you asked as well, which is like, what do travelers want? What do modern travelers want? So this is what the research tells us.
Yes, indeed. Okay, I would say to all of you, these trends aren't trivia. These are instructions from the market. These are overwhelmingly directions that people are talking about, desiring, reporting on, from all kinds of sources. That comes down to things like deeper experiences, smarter timing, alignment with their values, and a really kind of curated access, right? The exciting thing is they map perfectly to what Moab can authentically deliver, and what it needs. which is, you know, the reason we're all here, designing for Moab's future needs, right? Longer stays, shoulder season, dispersion, guidance that feels like hospitality. This isn't a stretch, this is a fit. We were really excited to see all of these trends. We were talking earlier about, what is it, Tom Brady's doing Pizza Hut commercials,
Yes.
and we all thought, wait, isn't he like a vegan robot? Not authentic. We don't have that problem here, okay? We have the authenticity, we have things people want. And as we tick through these, you'll see this is stuff we can authentically deliver. So we can design for what the modern traveler wants. Pretty one-to-one in a lot of cases. So like Alex was saying, the shift really at a macro level is kind of from more places to deeper places. That's how we would sort of characterize what all this ladders up to. Climate, crowding, you know, people are dodging all kinds of modern kind of factors in the world as they decide where to travel and how. That means planning has to be part of that experience. It's not a threat to us. It's an advantage that we can capitalize on, right? If we do it right. If we build those pathways for them. Choose your own adventure, choose your own intensity, right? After dark options that can expand the day in Moab without adding any additional strain. So the winners now are going to be places that sort of help people travel better and not just travel more. And we think we can authentically do that here. These are the trends we're paying attention to the most. First, authenticity is really the filter now. So this idea of generic epic adventure language just does not work for people anymore. There's not enough specificity to it, and specificity is what wins with modern travelers. That means local voices, local culture, history, and the meaning of a place is a way they're evaluating where they want to visit. For Moab, that's not messaging. It's really just a product expansion that we can do. Give people more reasons to stay, more ways to connect, more things to do beyond the parks. Specific beats scenic in the modern market every time. Secondly, slow travel isn't just a vibe. It's a really big behavioral shift that's happening in the market. People are choosing fewer things that have more meaning, and any destination that can support that is going to win. So we can own that here. You know, we can have paced itineraries, we can have sunrise strategies, we can have guided discovery, we can have more experiences in town that we're curating for people. The takeaway is that, you know, slower trips create better outcomes. It's going to be higher satisfaction, more nights, less peak strain, and really more nights is kind of like the cleanest growth we can get when you really boil it down. And that's possible if we just really broaden the aperture here, folks.
Do you think, Ben, that part of that is because the demographic has shifted so much to older travelers, and the ones that used to do 14 activities in one day are now just willing to go a little slower?
I absolutely think that's a factor, and they also have the disposable income far more than younger generations right now. So that's a big upside for us if we design it for them. They're also incredibly loyal. Like if they figure out how a place works and it's easy for them, they come back. So that's a big unlock. Personalization is really kind of a baseline, right? So this, these days, the idea of just outdoor adventure as a thing isn't a plan. That's just a big category. So the opportunities for us to create new pathways within that category by season, by intensity, by time, by interest. And when guidance is designed really well, it doesn't feel like rules, right? It feels like belonging, and it feels like access if it's done right. So, you know, here's the Moab you didn't know you could have, is kind of what the headline message is. It's demand management, but it's disguised as hospitality. And that's kind of the point. Next big one is wellness. This is a broad category that means a lot of things to a lot of people, but the key thing I would point out now is that people are seeking restoration through place. So never mind whatever their rituals and habits are around wellness, it's the place itself that it can be a restorative backdrop for whatever they want to accomplish. So that's things like quiet trails, dark skies, river time, soft adventure, and the interpretation of what they're seeing that is really going to make the land feel a lot more alive. So the takeaway for us here is that restoration widens the audience without diluting our identity. We have all these things. We just have not packaged them up and productized them in a way for people to choose. And that's the growth model we need, right? Moab can be really intense on one hand and really restorative on the other. We just have to design for both. Shoulder season. So shoulder season for a lot of people is becoming like the smart choice. People want fewer crowds. They want more comfort. Moab can lead with timing instead of fighting time. We shouldn't have to apologize for why it's challenging here in shoulder seasons. We need to talk about what the benefits of that are, and to the right people, the right audience, and the right message. That's really powerful. So the move is to make off-peak really feel more purposeful. We need programming around guided access, seasonal experiences that feel exclusive, not like second best. You're not settling by missing the big peak times here. You're experiencing something brand new and profound to you, if we explain it to them the right way and guide them to it. So if we can shift that demand around, we're going to relieve pressure without sacrificing any revenue. There is a way to do that. Next is this idea about softer, more accessible adventure. This is growing considerably, and it is a huge opportunity for us. What it boils down to is more ability levels, more guided options, more comfort-led access, right? It's not lowering the bar for what Moab is known for. We're just widening the door. More people who are looking for this are welcome here, and we've, again, designed for that. It's also a management tool for us, right? So guided accessible experiences are much easier to disperse and a lot easier to deliver really consistently. So accessibility is not a concession at all. It's actually like smart growth, and it boils down to better hospitality overall in the end. We love this one. To us, Noctourism is like a cheat code. It expands the experience here without adding any peak hour pressure. Moab After Dark is a totally different destination, right? The sky, the temperature, the whole mood is different here. A Moab After Dark platform, we'll figure out a better name for it. You know, that's stargazing, night walks, maybe we have night markets here. It creates a lot of differentiation and length of stay. So to us, After Dark isn't really an add-on. It's a strategic expansion of the product that we can totally capitalize on. We also learned from Madden folks yesterday that the Noctourism creative is performing really well, which for us is an awesome like early signal that this is really promising territory for us to explore. Sustainable tourism, or as we'd like to say without any trigger words, leave the place better than you found it. Done wrong, this is really preachy, okay? And we've been there before and we're not preaching anymore. But done right, it really feels like belonging for people, right? People want to feel that their presence contributes to a place. But they don't want to lecture, they want proof of that. They want signals of reinvestment. They want smarter routing. They want invitations that can feel really rewarding. So our opportunity here in the way we're thinking about it, kind of the lens, is to make doing it right feel like insider culture. We heard this from everyone who lives here and everyone who visits here, that this is an important subject to them, and the trends are backing this up. We need to find a way to do this in a way that makes it feel welcoming and is additive for people. We know it's possible. So when this feels like belonging, the behavior is going to change without any kind of resistance. They're part of something bigger.
Do you mind, will you give a quick explanation of how we get these travel trends? For folks who may not know.
Oh, sure.
Where do they come from?
These are sourced from multiple places, principally American Express Travel Report 2025 is a big one. We have research from Skift that validates all these. Booking.com and Expedia both put out trend reports, and there's a couple other smaller ones.
The sources are all in there for those who want to dig in deep, but
Yeah.
this isn't like our opinions. This is what travelers are telling us. And that's good news because we're well positioned to capitalize on it.
Absolutely.
60 years ago, the culture was different, and a lot of us grew up with Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts.
Totally.
Yeah, those are
Me too.
buzzwords now.
Yeah.
To say Boy Scouts or Girl Scouts, it has to just be Scouts.
Yeah.
But that was the culture, to always leave a place better. If we can resurrect the feeling without the lecture, then that's the magic.
Yeah.
That is
That's-
exactly right.
This is the mantra of the film industry.
Yeah.
As it stands,
100%.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. very true.
And the interesting thing is that isn't now just a trend that's coming from the folks who live here. This is what travelers are seeking out. They want to choose destinations where they know they can be making a good choice and feel good about themselves in their travels. But that's very cool to find those things and connect them.
I mean, I would add some of them are trends, some of them are movements, right? Like you're seeing it as if.
Sure.
Yes.
People are looking, you know, just as we talk about AI, you're seeing a shift in how people are looking at things versus the school this year.
Well said, yeah.
Yeah.
I would say it is a whole movement.
I definitely like that idea of the sustainability equaling belonging. I mean, just
Yes.
putting the two of those together, I mean, it makes complete sense to me. Right, we all want to belong when we go to a place.
Mhm.
And especially I want to return when I feel like I belong to a place.
That's right, one
Absolutely.
hundred percent.
You know, and that's that loop right there that I see. So it's a great insight.
Great point. Okay, let's get in a little bit to audiences here, who's coming in well and what they need. So we worked with the audience pro, you guys have many audience profiles kicking around. We have the ones from Trail Tomorrow, or Trail to Tomorrow, pardon me, that we studied. Madden, of course, has their profiles that they're using for media targeting that were super helpful. We took it as our responsibility to kind of add depth to those and in terms of, I mean, the fancy word is psychographics, but what do people feel? What's driving them? What's a barrier that they have? What do they really want to get out of a trip here? And so we have all that detail in the appendix of this deck. We've kind of really, I think there's 4 slides per group. That'll give us all that detail and Madden will get with you and talk about how that could augment or influence some of the targeting you're doing. We want to make sure these are coherent. So we know who we're aiming at. We want to give you kind of a high level snapshot of these segments and who we're talking to here. Group number 1, the family adventure planners. These folks want a trip that really feels epic and that also works. The fact that it works, if you think about dragging your kids around on a vacation, it has to work. And there's so many places where there are fault lines and things can go wrong. The places that unlock it and make that easy, make it, to your point, Brian, repeatable. If you're a family who goes to Disney World every year, by year 2, you've got it completely dialed and you know that it's going to work for your family and exactly how to do it right. So we want to bring that same kind of approach over to this particular group. So the opportunity with these folks is really about creating clear pathways, family-ready itineraries, time of day planning, and then things like beyond the icons, right? So they can really have a more diverse experience here that still feels iconic to them. So
I'm seeing yet one idea, big ideas come later in spring, but we really want to do a kids map to Moab. And just do like an entire map that's designed for kids where the whole thing is like, you know, all the experiences that a kid would want to do, but from, a kid perspective, so.
Yeah. As a parent, I would love that.
Yes.
Yeah. The next group, I love this group probably the most, and this is like such long-term value for Moab, right? If we can get a multi-generational connected story going where this is an important part of the family story. So this group though is solving for inclusion, okay? When you think about the breadth of age groups that typically are involved here, we've got different levels of stamina, we have a bunch of different interests, we have different mobility needs. If it fails for everybody in the group. And then Moab does not become a generational memory touchstone. So this group is a really perfect fit for guided products, right? A lot of interpretation about the place, town-based experiences that don't really depend on peak times. This to me, this is like incredibly high value tourism when it's curated in the right way. It's built for longer stays and therefore broader spending too. The adventure maximizers are probably vivid to all of us in this room. But they're here to earn it, right? I mean, they'll do really early starts, hard trails, but they really want confidence that it's going to pay off for them. So the opportunity here is really one of progression, curated 48 hours, 72-hour itineraries, helping with permit support, insider alternatives, right? And kind of the secret sauce experiences that pull them away from the most congested places and also give them a really unique story to tell about what they accomplished here. So if we reward that effort, we're going to disperse the demand and we're also going to increase their satisfaction. Next on the Nature First Explorers, I'm one of these, but I'm adventure curious, you guys. Nature first. These folks want connection and not conquest.
These folks are you.
Yes, they are me too. They're not after conquest like the adventure seekers are, right? They are after real connection with the place. So that's quiet, that's meaning, that's learning, that's respect for the land. They accept guidance if it feels like access and if it feels again like belonging. It's such a big part of all this.
Ben,
So-
can you give me one example of a time in Moab that you have felt that? Something that you did that you felt that?
Felt that kind of belonging?
Yeah.
How much time do you have, Lori?
You can tell me later.
I'll tell you later. I will say that in my time coming to Moab, what started out as kind of it's the best way to giant blocks of red things. The more you start to notice the detail is endless. And I think you reach a certain point in your awareness of it and your understanding of it that you just want to keep going deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. I felt this profoundly when Brian took us out to Arches, you know, within 10 minutes, I was like, oh my God, there's a story about this place I had no idea about, whether that's a geologic one, whether that's an ecosystem story, whether that's a history story. I went and saw the uranium exhibit at the museum. And I'm like, oh my God, this story, why isn't there a documentary about this?
Ben coined a term that I hadn't heard before that I love. I would call, I grew up in Park City. I live in Boulder, Utah, and I'm a mountain kid. I would call myself a adventure maximizer, with some family crossover there. But, Ben introduced a new term to me after going out with you, Brian. He said, there's a thing that you get here, you know how you can get kind of like snow blindness in the snow, like there's desert blindness. Like at first, the awe is so much that I'm just like awe blinded, I'm overwhelmed. But then with like a few days here, I start to be able to like pick up details that I couldn't see at first because the immense scale of everything just like floored me at first. And now I'm starting to notice stuff. So yeah, it was awesome to get to like borrow some more beginner eyes again for that. But yeah, I think there is something about getting folks like this to stay a little longer and slow down. So you get past the desert blindness and really start to like see the details and the texture there.
To look through a tourist eye sometimes.
Yes.
We live here,
Yes,
walk Main Street every day. And sometimes you'll see people just stop on Main Street, take a picture of the
Yeah.
cliffs.
Yeah.
You're like, this is just our background.
Yeah.
Just literally, that's just,
Exactly.
but to them,
it's
look
amazing.
through, you start to look at it a little bit differently and go, okay, yeah, the rim is actually pretty cool.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, when you see it through new eyes, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
And I would say to add to that, even just the seasonality of this place reveals layers. Like my drive in last night, looking at the LaSalle's, I looked at it completely differently. I think in the summertime or spring, you don't see the LaSalle's, but now you see them, and that was a new awe for me that I just hadn't even noticed. So I think like you
Yeah.
see new awe, especially as you come at different times of the year, you kind of look at it in a new way. So there's a lot of that that we can expand upon.
I think if we can keep on this, where you guys are headed, if we can feel the feels, if we can get the people to feel the feels, they'll feel the love and they'll
They
take
will.
care of it. And that's what they bring to their vacation, to their trip is a lot of what they're gonna get out of it. And
Exactly
the
right.
heart that I bring to different visits, every time I go across the bridge, I'm a tourist somewhere else.
Mm.
And what I bring to the place is a lot of what I get out of it.
You pretty much just said the entire, brand's definition for tourists. So thank you. That's our entire mode for existing.
Love it. I'll
Yeah,
do it.
it's great. Please, yeah.
I think our Mighty Five visitors might be in this group too. And our
Yeah.
opportunity is that they come for the parks, nature first, but we have an opportunity to set expectations before they arrive of what Moab also has to offer in terms of nature or other things like culture.
Mhm.
Great.
Absolutely. Okay, and this is the group I guess I'll be joining next. It's just a few years from now. The retired scenery seekers. And we're heartened to see that this is a segment that Madden's focused on as well. Like we said, they have the money, they have the time, and they want to use it well, so that's beauty without stress, that's comfort, accessibility, interpretation of a place that really deepens what they're seeing. So for us, like, I think we need to think about these folks slightly differently, like accessibility isn't just a niche. It's hospitality, it's a shoulder season growth lever, 100%. And so this is one of the cleanest kind of like value segments in the mix, if we really serve them intentionally.
I know what we saw from Madden yesterday kind of reinforces that's a big market
Exactly.
for us.
We were
Exactly.
so happy to see that, yeah, we totally agree.
Not only do I like this, but I think that there's the other opportunities, not just so much the beauty, but I think that the idea of immersion without stress.
Yes.
The
Yes.
idea that there's that opportunity to go deeper without that stress here.
Yeah.
You know, the infrastructure that this town provides, whether it's a guide or trail access or whatever, it's all here for them.
Agreed. Yeah, it should, I mean, it just comes down to designing for it. Like, this is the focus that we need to have, right? Okay, where we need to go, chapter 3. So this is the strategy emerging. The headline here really is that Moab's already got the world's attention, and what it needs now is just a sharper promise and a stronger system to support it. So we're thinking of this as a pivot from destination marketing to experience design. And I think if that's the frame that we think about all of our future efforts through, we're going to be able to create that next chapter for this place, before it's written for us. So that's how iconic places really get diluted. It happens really quietly and slowly, and then it happens all of a sudden. And we have the chance to defend against that now. Okay, what's working and what's not? Okay, I forgot what we had. So what's working is unquestionable, and that is that Moab is extraordinary, right? And what's not is also pretty clear. At peak moments, the trip can become really fragile, and the magic turns into a lot of logistics, and we're leaving a lot of amazing stuff on the table. So the key mindset shift here is recognizing, Laura, I think you just kind of said this, like the brand is what happens when people get here. So if we strengthen the brand, we're strengthening the trip. These are the same things. We just need to start thinking them as the same. So guidance, dispersion, timing, and a broader portfolio of things to do here creates just an infinite number of more meaningful experience that we can tell and create. So if we fix the trip, we are fixing the story. I really want to emphasize this slide because it's in all my years of doing this kind of work and our years of doing this kind of work, it's really, really rare that there's such incredible alignment, not only across what visitors want, what residents want, what the leadership is looking for, and what the world is telling us it wants. And we're sitting at an incredible sort of center of a Venn diagram right now here. And to us, this was like the breakthrough realization of all this research work that we've done. Not only is that Venn diagram lining up, but we can authentically achieve it. We don't have to have Tom Brady come in. Okay. All the stuff that we have is here. Visitors want help making the most out of their trip. We heard that from everybody. They want more time. They want more guidance. They want to know more about what happens here. Locals want more meaningful tourism, not just more people. A strategy like this helps us do that. Leaders want less peak pressure and more value per visit. All of these are unlocks toward achieving that. And everyone unanimously agrees Moab's way more than a weekend checklist. It's just that that's how we've marketed it so far. And there's a big pivot we can make here. It's an extremely rare alignment of things. And that's what we're most excited about for the forthcoming work. Alignment is leverage. And we just have to capitalize on it. We can move fast. We can bring people with us. We really feel like the opportunity here is really vivid for what Moab can do.
I think that also was the thrust of the project, was when we were saying we could tell a more clear story. We hear all of our stakeholders, and then we look at what we're producing or what has been produced over time. That's why this came to be, that we could invest in this, tell a clearer story. And, we are lucky that we're all overlapping in these ways.
Yeah.
And it will also help get everybody on the same page.
Yeah. I mean, now we have the proof, We have the proof from talking to everyone. We have proof from all the broader research we've done. We've got proof from the world coming in saying this is what we want. So instead of just being our opinion about what might be the right mix or a gut feeling we have that something's missing in this story, it is defined and it's ultra clear.
I think your last slide so far has been the most powerful for me, one back from this, because I have this belief that if we can figure out where we agree, instead of focusing on all the places that we don't agree, then we can start to build. Hopefully, we have a buy-in and people can agree that what you all have established here is where we can build.
Yeah, that's really what we're hoping to have come out of here too, because these are our marching orders moving forward out of this, right? And there is plenty of dissent. I mean, I think we all want to be honest, like, obviously, this is a community full of folks with strong opinions. You know, that is one thing, everyone here is united in a strong opinions. And that's great. Strong opinions means you care about the place. People here care immensely about their community. But there is absolutely overlap and crossover and a way forward here through the places where the overlap happens, and that's what this is here. And so that becomes the way forward for all of us.
Yeah, and the other thing that I would add, which I just think is really profound in Moab, is the importance of the tourism industry to this community. You know, there's many communities that have tourism industries, but most of those communities also have other industries that are contributing to the economy. And Moab's tourism industry here is so significant and vital to everyone's, you know, the quality of life. And so, you know, I think that finding these common insights and then also backing that up with just the innate importance of this industry is really powerful for Moab.
Yeah, so this is the opportunity here, right? Now here's how we get to go forward. It's making this shift from Moab being a place that you don't just capture, but a place you connect with. So here's how we actually do that, right? It's to shift the story from quick hits to multi-day immersion. So yes, absolutely, go see the icons, but also go beyond that. It's a yes and story, not an either or story, right? It's helping visitors slow down, see more, stay longer. It's promoting 5-day itineraries instead of 3-day. Like, for example, on the chat bot that we looked at yesterday, that's on the website now, or Leslie in some of the ads. Even there in a really tactical layer, instead of saying, help you plan a 3-day itinerary, help you plan a 5-day itinerary. Let's start changing that narrative. And it also means building multi-day progression experiences so that as you're here, you can kind of get deeper into it and helping folks build that in advance. It's elevating that second layer. It also means guiding the experience. We think guides are a real unlocker. This is an entire community of guides. Whether or not you have guide in your title, like 3/4 of the town is guides, officially or unofficially. The barista is a guide, the bartender is a guide. And all those folks sharing their knowledge is what shapes the experience of the visitor. And so you will absolutely see from us as we move into campaign territory, that become elevated as a strategy. Whatever creative direction we go down, that really wants to become a strategy that we want to elevate.
To that point really quickly, you know, you have so many people who want to hear from locals. What is your favorite spot? You know, what do
Exactly.
you like to do? What is,
Exactly.
you know, I have all the time at the restaurant and elsewhere. You know, what do you recommend? It's not anything that's on an itinerary. They want a local's perspective
Mhm.
on what they personally like so that they
Yeah.
might go visit that.
So
yeah,
use
so
that.
we're all
It's like you're already doing it naturally.
Yeah.
So how do we like amplify that a little bit and like, you know, give some credit to the locals who are doing that, who are, and help arm them with the tools that they need so that they can advise people in a way to have a good experience that also keeps the town in a good place too, right?
As we've talked about these things, I think representing Moab authentically is something that I expect to come out of this project,
Yes.
not showing just the bucket lists. And I think that friction that we feel when people come to conquer something or capture something and then leave, representing it visually and setting those expectations before they come is something that will be noticeable coming out of this project.
Totally agree.
And alleviate a lot of what we've gone through.
There's nothing wrong with wanting to hike to Delicage. It's great. Absolutely. We should keep promoting Delicage. People should go there. And that's just one little piece of what goes on here. And to have a really rich experience, there can be more and more and more and more. Yeah. And lastly, the real key piece here too is like the land needs to lead the experience, but Moab needs to create or to curate what that journey looks like, right? That's our role here. We are the ultimate guide in a community of guides, and that's how we end up protecting the magic while growing the value. So, okay, here's the real pivot that we're recommending. This is it here, moving from a bucket list base camp with visitor education that was well-intentioned but was tonally off, to a place where adventure runs deeper, connection lasts longer, and guidance is part of the journey. So keep the truth, adventure, adrenaline, awe, respect for the place, but deliver it with warmth and with confidence. So we're still leading people, we're still leading with people experiencing those Red Rock like icons, but we just don't stop there, right? This is a pivot that says Moab is not a drive-by, it's not a one and done, it is a place that you develop a relationship with, and you deepen that relationship over the course of your visit, and hopefully over multiple visits throughout your lifetime. It's a place you feel a sense of belonging. So where do we go from here? This becomes our focus moving forward, right? How do we grow tourism from that kind of a position? Well, we make our focus on smarter tourism, not just more tourism, right? Better trips with better outcomes. And here's how we do that very tactically: extend the stay and deepen the experience. We spread demand out across seasons and out across locations. We want to attract visitors who value the place, not just the photo. We don't just want any tourists to come here. We want the right tourists to come here. Tourists who do this, right? Who are interested in that sense of belonging, interested in a sense of connection, who come with curiosity. And we offer clear, helpful guidance with no finger wagging. So we are not reducing demand at all. We are growing demand while shaping it so that Moab becomes more resilient economically, without breaking the thing that people came here for. So why now? You are the leaders of tourism in this community right now, and you already know this is the time to act, or you would not be embarking on this entire endeavor, right? The momentum here is really high, but the pressure is really high here too. So our research agrees with your instincts. This is the time, and Moab can lead this chapter, not just for yourself, but you could really become a model for how iconic places evolve as you grow, right? The visitor demand is strong, but those visitor expectations are changing. What we're seeing is communities, not just you, but communities in general, want to protect what makes them special. And smart destinations are adapting now, because if we don't shape the future will shape us. So for us, the takeaway becomes very clear: is urgency with confidence. The equity is there, and the signals are clear, and the levers are real. So now we choose the next chapter, and we need to design for it. And of course, the best time to design for the future is before the future designs you.
I was going to reiterate that point that, one of the, key things about branding is not allowing somebody else to brand us.
Yeah.
And I think what the community needs to understand is there's a lot of different views on what and who Moab is. And unless we try and define that for them, the other people will try and do it for us. And I think having a cohesive brand identity is key to us being able to talk about who we are in a way that invites people, and without having that preconceived notion done by somebody else.
Yeah, I would add that there's the aspirational things that we could do this right, but I'd take it back to our office really needs this. We need this work to tell clear stories. We are investing in these things that the brand will touch: guides, guidebooks, websites, advertising, and the clarity of message just allows us to be more clear. And without that, like Wendell said, tourism happens to us, and we're not in control of the story.
I would say also your office needs it, but the community needs it too. A community of tourism-based and tourism-adjacent businesses looks to you all to set the tone and say, well, where are we taking? What kind of tourists are we aiming for? And what kind of tourism brand are we establishing for ourselves? Then every partner in the community can start attuning themselves toward that message as well, so that everyone's working in concert, delivering the same experience. When someone comes here, they shouldn't have to think, oh, that's only the brand of the Moab Office of Tourism. It should be the brand of the Moab experience. Like, they shouldn't have to parse out what comes from the Moab Office of Tourism from any other part of their experience. It should all feel like one seamless thing. And so to do that, it has to feel real. and true and authentic, and it has to be something that everyone feels it can get done.
You talked about this earlier, but the idea I have been having for the last month is if we cannot identify as part of our brand, other than just property tax not being so high, how this experience brings value to the quality of life of people who don't see themselves as aligned with tourism, then once again, we don't have the community love. That feeling that we want to offer people when they come here is what deepens the experience, in my opinion. If
Yeah, there's something
everybody's not buying
intangible,
it-
an exchange, a richness that you get when you get to have connection and, you know, an exchange with someone who's not just like, comes from a different place than you. And that exchange goes both ways, right? It flows into the community, not just from dollars, but also from ideas and viewpoints and that I think as someone who grew up in a tourist town, that to me feels really rich, just to have different ideas flowing through your community and that kind of exchange. But you're right, we need to be able to communicate it. So this pivot here, this becomes our team's instruction manual, right, for building the brand and the platform next. So this is sort of a big picture look at everything we're undertaking in the coming months here. So we use this once we're all feeling aligned on it to become our instruction manual for building a very intentional and tight new brand. So that's the brand position, that's the brand messaging, the values and the personality, and a full visual identity system, including a logo system too. It's not just a, you know, blue blob that says Moab. It's born from this strategy. Like this is what we have to bring to life and express in a very visual way. And all those insights and opportunities we looked at, those become the levers that we can pull to create a new advertising campaign. So it's very much birthed from this. And that's what we start working on immediately after this. Yeah, we're ready.
There you go. Thanks for fighting the image there, Bea.
Oh, thank you for that. Yeah.
I wonder, in earlier in the deck, you had more specifics about some things that you guys will be delivering. So this was, you know.
On the first slide.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This was the findings, but could we review some more detail on other things that this team will be producing?
Sure.
specific-
Should we go back
It's
to
not
the
just a
that slide?
It's not just the brand book and
It's a lot of things.
It's like one of those first ones.
I mean, one way to think of it while they're going there is sort of
Want me just
two
to do
different
it?
work streams start happening. Immediately after this, what we start working on is actually building the brand, right? So those building blocks happen in a few different ways. One, there's lots of different words for this. I feel like every company calls it something slightly different, but the brand platform is essentially, there's the written aspects of what is the brand, right? What is the brand? What do we value? What do we stand for? How do we talk? You know, what's our vibe?
right.
And then there's the visual expression of that too. So a visual identity system, which is going to include a logo. And we've just kicked off the visual identity with Mick and Ally this week. And I would say that is not just a logo that you slap onto something. It is something where you have a visual mark that can be used in lots of different ways, certainly as a logo mark and logo type that can be separated, but also where those graphic elements can start coming to life in lots of different ways, different executions for you, and building it into a system with lots of different use cases there. So that also includes type and color, and eventually that gets turned into different rules so that if other partner businesses want to be partnering with the Moab Office of Tourism's brand, there's some guidance on how to marry their own branding with this branding. And so then the work streams start to split. And this is as we start to get into toward the end of the green section in the middle there. And then two things start happening at once. One, the development of an advertising campaign, and that becomes one work stream. And how that's going to look first is the development. We usually work on a couple different ideas. We'll all decide on one. We will blow that advertising campaign out. Here's what that's going to look like conceptually. And then we go do a shoot for it. We'll go capture all the visual assets for that campaign. So those are the photos and videos for that campaign. And then after that, come back and start building all of those assets out, very much working hand in hand with Madden at that point. So we start to say, okay, here's what the You know, the media plan includes all these certain kinds of social assets and these certain kinds of digital assets, and we know we're gonna have videos of these capacities. Maybe it makes sense to have out of home, maybe it doesn't. Well, that's one work stream that'll keep building. Then the branded assets will move down another work stream, and that is updating the website, updating the travel planner, updating the adventure guide, updating the kiosks, and the other kind of branded touch points. And that's kind of what all happens in the third phase, the blue box there.
Can we just run through this quickly?
Sure.
So when I talk about, we manage all of these different tactics that look like a completely different family. This team is actually going to design and write and deliver new iterations of those things. So it's not just a high level positioning. Moab should be this. They're also going to design this, deliver this, and it will be switched out over the course of the year. Can we go through that list, Steve? Would you mind just talking about what we're gonna hit in phase 2 and 3?
That's just what Alice was covering, but we
Yeah,
can,
let's do it.
just in detail.
But I want to illustrate the point that we're actually getting tangible things.
Sure. So in that phase 2, just thinking of an experience journey maps, so all those audience archetypes that we're looking at, thinking about how we get it from a 3-day itinerary to a 5-day itinerary, and really thinking about what is a consumer's journey in multiple ways here. The full brand positioning and messaging, so that is that we want to get you to an ownable document that says this is who we are. So we all look at that together. This is our creative brief back to us that says this is what we're going to go do to capture this brand going forward.
And these are our goals. These are goals that we're after. So we might choose to photograph something in a particular way to achieve some strategic end.
Right. And in that, even as we're talking about this is where eventually we're going to need to get to like a creative messaging framework to say, all right, these are the activities that we want to highlight in creative campaigns or in travel itineraries. These are the things that we want to show off and show that in a comms framework so that we're working with Madden to figure out, all right, we're highlighting noctourism, we're highlighting mountain biking or rafting, and really discerning where all of this goes throughout a media campaign.
So when we're thinking about selecting a cover for our travel guide, if it's a lone picture of delicate arch with beautiful purples and pinks, and we're saying our brand positioning is one that is setting expectations for something that someone might not be able to achieve on any given day. Maybe we wouldn't pick that picture. We pick something else based on this sort of direction about what does set the right expectations. What do we want to send and get in somebody's mailbox so when they open it, they say, I want to go there. And then when they go there, we don't cause friction with the community over what their expectations are, those mismatched things. So that's one example of how that sort of thing will be put into play.
And I'd say with the narrative executions, we're really thinking about it seasonally, so that we're capturing both the peak season and the shoulder season to say, all right, if you're coming here to camp and mountain bike in the spring, we want you to come back here and take your kids swimming and stay in a hotel in the summertime. So we're really trying to figure out the seasonal messaging, the vertical messaging. We've included difficulty systems within this as well, because we know you have a lot of different activities with a lot of different, beginner, intermediate, advanced, and trying to give a better system for that's under the brand, so that we can actually, as people come in, they can understand, all right, these are these activities that we can take on, whether we're a beginner or advanced. And taking into consideration those audience archetypes, so we know a maximizer, this is what they want for advanced, and someone else might be for beginner.
Another seasonal example would be in the summer, we might tell people, give them an itinerary to experience extreme heat. Come, wake up early, go outside until noon, go back to your hotel, have a siesta, hang out at the pool, go to dinner, and then plan a stargazing guided trip or something like this. So that, we're finding that we have a dip in the summer. So how do we invite people to come here and plan for how to experience Moab in these times?
And those real stories too, we can use to get press with. So, we pitched that story to the Wall Street Journal and they published it. Then you can still visit Moab in the summer and do that itinerary.
Yeah, what was the headline? It was the headline in the Wall Street Journal. Moab is hot.
It's hot, but you should come.
You should come anyway. Yeah, it's this kind of idea. And these are things that this team is going to help us develop and then implement across our guide into the website. Not just a high level, like, oh, this is an idea, but an actual execution and putting it out into market.
All these bullet points get a lot more tactical as I mean, I guess that's with any process, right? We're
And that's where I
starting as
wanna take
conceptually as you
this.
can and
Yeah.
getting more and more and more. You know, the next phase is sort of in between, where there's lots of, you know, tangible deliverables, but a lot of them are internal, you know, not necessarily the external ads yet. And then the last phase is sort of where everything that like the public would see actually all gets rolled out. Bit by bit.
And with the visual identity system, it's not just, here's your new logo, it's here's your new logo in every possible size, form, fashion, black and
Yeah.
white, four color, every small
Here's your
for
social
socials,
LinkedIn.
all of that. And then, and with that, yeah.
All of the things.
And with that comes typography, and it could be a few different typography, any iconography, wayfinding, the color palette. That's what then builds in, you'll see 2 bullets down, brand guide with complete asset toolkit, so that we will build a full brand toolkit so that anybody who knows the brand or touches the brand can have access to that as a guide for everything that they build. So they know exactly where they find that 4-color logo or the small black and white.
It goes all the way down to font. I mean, it goes all the way down to
Yeah.
like however you're gonna do it in the presentation.
Your headlines will be in this font, your subheads will be in this font, your body copy will be in this font.
And we use this every day when we're.
Yes.
Yeah.
When we're
Yeah.
using
Style guide.
additional things.
Everything.
If we're creating a flyer or we're doing something, we put it in the logos that we're currently using. Something, the logo is, you know, we were talking yesterday about how logos show up in LinkedIn. You know, if you don't have the various ways that your logo is expressed, it very quickly looks unprofessional and, yeah. So it's this work that these guys will be delivering so that it can be expressed. And again, it's about that clear messaging so that we're always on.
My hope is that by the time we're sitting in this room a year from now, that this slide looks really different than it does now. And that everything on it looks like it belongs together, that it's all part of the same family. You're allowed to have some freedom and different expressions that an ad campaign, especially an ad campaign targeting, you know, adventure maximizers might feel a little different than the, you know, adventure guide does. But all in all, like everything should feel like it's coming confidently out of one family with a singular voice, right? That's how we want to be. And that voice gets expressed in how we all talk about Moab as well. And hopefully the whole community starts to feel about this as well.
Can I say something?
What else is on
Yeah.
there?
I just think it's really important to recognize too. This is one of the places on the planet where we have so much public land. And not just the parks and the state parks and all that stuff, but just a lot of the rest of the world does not have that. A lot of the other states in the United States also don't have that. And public land is for the public. And I just want to make sure like that song is being sung somehow too. And that also second to that sometimes couples come to a place and they don't want to do the same thing. You know,
Yeah.
the husband wants to go climb a mountain and the wife wants to sit on the beach. Or whatever it is, or, you know, or the kids want to play at the pool, and I just want to make sure that those stories also get told in some way, I think is an important thing, because not everybody's on the same path. When they go together.
Absolutely. Also, if we want people to come for a longer stay, maybe they're gonna do a lot of off-roading and hiking or biking, but they might also just want to have a day where they just stroll on Main Street, chill, get a massage.
Or go swim in the
Yeah,
Colorado River.
Exactly.
You know.
I think Ashley, you said this in one of our sessions, you said something about like, man, I would love it if people would just come to Moab and sit on a rock and just take the world in and like let everything drop away and just like feel the place for a minute, you know, like that's a pretty good time. So yeah, there you go.
So what else will
think-
we be?
So photography and visual storytelling guide, another deck that we're working on with Mick and Ally right now is our audit of all of the current assets that we have. And there's not a lot there. It's a lot of
There's a
older
lot
stuff.
there.
Well, there is a lot there, but it needs to be, yeah.
And not a lot that's usable.
So within this, we will come back. We have a 1-day winter shoot where we're just wanting to make sure that we're capturing content this winter. And then in our phase 3, we come back and we have 3 more days of shooting to capture more hero content then. But with that will be kind of a visual storytelling guide that'll be a part of the brand toolkit, so that we say, this is how we take photographs here. So that even as we're looking at stock photography, we have to be very careful that we're not buying stock imagery that doesn't fit within the campaign. So there's going to be, even with our Mud Springs shoot, we're already kind of using that kind of style guide to craft what we do with these shoots.
Yeah, so we use photography also every day. Our stakeholders ask for photography, travel operators, international people who are selling trips come to our photo library, use these photos to then sell trips to Moab. You know, a journalist might ask us for a photo. So we have this hard drive full of images and videos from the last, I don't know, 25 years plus. And again, it goes to that they're all in different styles. A lot of the equipment is outdated. These guys are reviewing that entire archive and they're picking out what's usable. And then they're going to go out and take additional photographs to tell these stories that we need to tell.
And I think a key word there too is just authentic, like we talked about earlier, because we don't want to just buy stock photography that is a staged actor mountain biking. Even the people that we got out at Mud Springs were people from here riding the trail as if they're riding it, you know, like they ride it every day. So we want to make sure we are capturing those people authentically. And that's a big part of what we would show.
And we're also, they're not going to be able to photograph the whole place, right? So we're thinking about what's our priority, but then also going forward, how can we continue to get images to supplement this library and make sure that we're not breaking brand.
Mick, what do you think about the idea of putting out the opportunity for the community to submit photos? Now, I know that puts a ton of work on filtering through because a lot of them will not be usable, but the biggest message well, not biggest, a huge message we heard from Madden is we need more content, which obviously you guys will do your best to get that as quick as possible. But if we have things that we can submit to you, and if we've solicited to everyone and no one participates, well, that's on us. But if we put out something that says, send us something that you're not going to get credit for it, it's not branded, it's not trademarked. Do you have pictures that you'd like to share?
Yeah.
We're thinking about like an artist residency program. So instead of photos that are already taken, we could engage locals to take pictures for us. Maybe that's over a particular activity or a particular area, and compensate them for that. So we get the imagery we need. And then it's one idea that we've talked about for Raised It. We really like it, but we have a lot of this is a visual place and we live in a visual culture, so we have a real opportunity to tell visual stories.
We've also a lot of artists here and a lot of incredible photographers that live here, so harness them as much as
definitely want to do that. But we start with them. So in phase 2, they're going to do a 1-day winter shoot to give us some photography and video.
I would say too, well, I know this list is long. There's a pretty big difference between the campaign imagery and photography and what the brand needs for ongoing needs. So whatever the campaign direction and idea is, what we go out and shoot for that is going to be really anchored in that campaign. Can those assets be used for some other things? Absolutely, but they will be custom built for that campaign to tell that particular story, right? And a lot of the needs that the office has here are really ongoing things that are, a photo, show us what,
Their webpage.
jet boating looks like. Okay, I don't know, maybe jet boating's in the campaign means that doesn't really matter right now. But if it's not, like, that needs to be something that's a little bit more evergreen, that has a capacity to live beyond just the confines and the length of time of that campaign. Because a good rule of thumb, I mean, the campaign, you 3 or so years before those assets are gonna need to be refreshed. But what you need ongoing is like, you're gonna need assets just like, what does Fisher Towers area look like? Just some scenic things like that too. And those will have a little bit more longevity, but they're kind of different captures and they're different objectives on a shoot. So both of those things need to happen.
Yeah, and a lot of times what you're shooting for ads, right, is you're shooting something really wide, or you have these like crazy thing, specs that are being provided. So it isn't a one size fits all. It's like, I try to make this work and I cut off the whole point of the picture. So
That's right.
it's making sure, and then as you guys are doing this, like, you're shooting for both purposes.
Exactly, yeah. So kind of different different
It's a
shoots,
good
different
point.
needs.
So we'll move into
Phase
phase three.
three, yeah. So like I said, we have our 3-day shoot that we will conduct in spring. This is where we're just creating assets for the media campaign where we can hit digital, print, out of home, anything that we're buying media wise. We'll have likely brand film, video cut downs, we'll have a photo suite, messaging system. We'll build this campaign toolkit, like as Alex refers to just the campaign elements, but I think at the same time, you have to think about this as two parts. You have your campaign elements, but then you also have your own channels. So refreshing discovermoab.com, the travel planner, the adventure guide, looking at all your social channels. So we're changing out all the headers and developing new social content for the main social channels. And then even things like environmental branding, so the kiosks around town, any other signage, throughout the Moab community. And then last, but certainly not least, just making sure we're connecting with the local businesses so that we have co-branding opportunities, co-branding toolkits. If we have swag, t-shirts, stickers, the kind of things that we want everybody to embrace to promote this new brand.
So they'll be helping us implement all of that. So the website will look different, our social handles will look different. We'll have these physical signage opportunities. We can put something on the information center. We'll start to think about these things. But thank you for going through that list, because for me, you can, in phase one, it's all about getting on the same page. But I wanted to be clear that this team is also designing stuff and delivering stuff that we will then be putting into market. And our 2-person, small but mighty team needs the assistance to tackle so many different tactics
Yeah.
that we're using every day.
Yeah, thanks, Mick. I appreciate you clarifying that. And I also appreciate everybody having so much patience with this process, because it takes a lot of time to properly listen to everybody and look through all these various data sources and really thoughtfully analyze it. And I realize that that's not exciting. You're probably kind of like, okay, let's see the action, But what we wouldn't want to do is dive headfirst into phase 2 and then have you all scratching your head. Well, that's not what we think. That's not what the community is saying. That's not what the larger, macro travel trends are pointing towards. Now that we can all be on that same page, we can feel very confident in the creative decisions that we'll make moving forward. So appreciate your patience and understanding this process.
Shiny things are coming.
And diving in too quickly is how you get a brand that is all over us. Say, oh, we should do this today, we should do that tomorrow, and in 10 years we should do this. So doing it strategically and methodically is how we will be more effective.
And it's amazing how important it is to trust the sources of the data.
Yeah. Which is why we look at a lot.
Say that
Which is
again.
why we look at a lot of data sources, so that it's not all just coming from one.
Well, it's great that you guys are already working with MEB but I would, I know yesterday I was talking about the chatbot, like if we can get some of that data to these guys as well. Because it shows what people are looking for, include that chat box. I think that would be great to see what people are, clicking on there, what they're asking about.
Well, and just for me, a few call outs today. I mean, we're talking about visitation, we're talking about the brand, but we're really talking about economic development, right?
Yeah.
And so we know visitors are coming. How do we make sure that we're getting ahead and getting the right visitors? I really want to, I think, call that out. And I felt like one of the pieces you guys had in there that was really important is, yes, we know the outdoor, but we also need them in the community, right? Like we need them to return and go to hotels, right? Because that's how we're keeping those people employed. That's how we're driving people to local businesses. And so this process and those steps are so important to make sure that we're doing that in the correct way. We could easily open a floodgate. Nobody wants that. So slowing down to make sure that we're all working together and doing it collectively is the most responsible way to move forward with this. And so even being a little bit on the outside of this, these are the right steps that collectively we need to take to do the right work. So appreciate that and all the effort and time you guys have put into this.
Also like to recognize the land managers that showed up. We really appreciate you guys being here. And being part of this. We welcome any of your feedback as we kind of move through this. So thank you guys for being here.
I like the long the thought of long-term, I've lived here on and off since I came here in 1989. I've been here since the early 90s. It's a long time. I had a kid here. And I've been in a lot of conversations and listened to a lot of these meetings over the years, and this is the first time that there is this happening, and I think it's extraordinary. But we had said before about, I mean, all of those conversations in the past sort of had an inkling of looking towards what we want in 10 years or 20 years, not just this year and next year. And I think it's really important to wrap our heads around the branding of this and the through line through whatever it's going to be, with whether it's with the chamber or with the tourism, whatever it is about years
The
from
next
now.
chapter, the
And
future.
the next chapter in the future, and not going back to the past and moving forward,
Yeah.
you know, at every step.
Yeah, well said.
Well, thanks everyone for coming. We have a board meeting that starts at 3. But if there's nothing else, we can adjourn and see everyone back in 20 minutes.
Yay.